Hi everybody, welcome to the Manifold channel. Today we're going to take a look at the rename related command that's just appeared in recent builds. And this is a wonderful command that allows us to rename many components all at once using the same naming pattern. And let's see how that works. We're looking at a project right now which has a map, and the map consists of 3 layers. It's got a points labels layer, a points layer, and a raster layer. And the points layer is just a drawing. Here it is in its own window. It has a bunch of points in it. And that drawing takes data from this table called points table. Now, if you're familiar with Manifold, you know that one of the most powerful things of Manifold is the ability for one thing to create to pull data from something else to create something wonderful. So the points drawing is an example of that. Drawings don't actually store any data. This points drawing right here is basically empty. All that's in the points drawing is a bunch of properties that tell the drawing what table to use for data. All the data is actually stored in the table, and what field from that table to use. So if we take a look at the points table here and open up that drawing properties again, we can see the drawing uses the points table, and in the points table it uses the geom field, and that's where the geometry is. All these other properties of the drawing right here are just style properties. They tell the drawing how to display what it's displaying. That means that that's a very powerful capability on the one hand, because you can make multiple copies of drawings and have multiple drawings taking data from the same table but styling them, displaying it differently. But that does mean that typically when you want to rename stuff, you want to rename the name of the drawing in the table at the same time. At the same time, also, you can have other components like maps. For example, this map right here, which has the drawing and the labels layer in it as components. The labels takes its data from the drawing. Here's the points drawing, because the labels component was created from the drawing. That's very convenient. You can just right-click on the points drawing and choose Create New Labels, and create labels that way from the drawing, from the fields in the drawing. But it does mean that if you change the name of the drawing, you have to update the labels as well. So typically, if you have 3 closely related components like this, you want to rename them all at the same time. And you really don't want to do that by slow double-clicking and then tediously renaming all of them. What you really want to do is have a command that does that all at once. And that command is right-click. Of course, it's called rename related. And there the rename related command is. And the way it works is that whatever you don't want renamed as part of the command, you can just check this box off. But normally all the boxes are checked on. And to rename something, let's say we want to call this sources instead of points. Enter sources. When you click that, when you click enter on that, Manifold, the dialog shows you how it proposes to rename the different components, and this is just a preview. It hasn't actually done anything yet. If we like what we see, we can click the rename button and it will rename everything for us. If we don't like what we see, we can click close and abandon these changes. Let's rename, and like magic, it's changed all these point things to sources. And not only has it updated those names to those same patterns, it's also updated the map. So the map now also uses those different layers. If you look at how the map functions, the map also is empty. It just has properties which tell what layer should go in the map. And you can see these properties have been updated with those new names for those new components. And Manifold will do this for you. It's even if you have hundreds of components. And if you wanted to see how different things are related, because after all, you might have dozens of drawings using the same table, and from those dozens of drawings you could have dozens or hundreds of maps that use those various drawings as layers. And layouts, for example, this layout here uses the map in the frame. And when all those things are working together, it can be not so easy in a project that has hundreds or even thousands of components arranged within folders or arranged within data sources. All this works in data sources as well, to see what's related to what. And one of the things that helps us keep track of all these things is the show related command. So I can right-click on sources table and then choose show related, and that'll show all the various different things that are related to that table. Those components which refer to that table by name, for example the sources drawing, are indicated with a little chain link. And what's cool about the show related dialog is I can click on these various other things. For example, sources, let's see what refers to the sources drawing. If I click on the sources drawing like this to make it the context item in the list, we see that the sources labels in the map refer to that sources drawing by name. And if I click on something like the map, we can see that the layout refers to that by name. The map also refers to the sources layer by name. And so this is one way of kind of getting a radar into how everything is related in a drawing by right-clicking on something and choosing Show Related. It's a great way of keeping order in projects, like I say, that have hundreds of components. Let's close that, and let's look at one more thing that's convenient to do. Very often we might want to make copies of drawings, and we can do that by doing copy, and then I click paste. And what we've done is we've made an independent copy of this entire ensemble: the sources labels, the sources and drawing, and the sources table. And when Manifold does a copy and paste like this for you, it automatically updates everything. So, for example, the sources to drawing knows, if you look in the properties, that it should take data from the sources table to. It adds that numeric postfix. But we don't often want such a numeric postfix. I mean, that's fine for a default name, but perhaps we prefer something better. So we can click Rename Related, double-click into here, Sources, and choose New Sources. And that'll change all those at once. Click Rename, and we're done. We may want at some times to change the names of some things, but not the names of others. And we can do that as well. So, for example, let's say we want to change the names in these guys here on the related components: new sources labels, new sources table. But we don't want to change the name of the table. Let's say we want to change this to just sources. No, let's call it newer sources. So by unchecking this box right here, if we push rename, we change the name of these two components, but not the name of the table. If we don't want to change any of this stuff, we can just click Close. Now let's learn about how to do deletes. We might want to delete a whole bunch of stuff that we've created at once, all the related things. Let's say we change our mind about all this new sources adventurism, and we just want to delete these three related items. We can do that easily enough by clicking Delete Related, and that'll automatically delete what we want. Now what's nice about this is that it understands that if we're going to delete the table, it will automatically check all these other two, because these other two really can't live without the table. And it knows that if we don't want to delete new sources, we probably don't want to delete the drawing. We probably don't want to delete the table as well. That will allow us to just say delete the labels. Let's in fact do that. So now we've just deleted the labels, but we've left new sources and new sources table. Let's repeat that and just delete these two as well. So now we delete it that way. If you're going to change the name of just one thing, so for example, let's say we want to change the name of sources table, but we want all the references to remain the same. That's another good use for rename related. And what we'll do here is we'll uncheck this, and we'll change this to back to points table. And when we do that, it's not just doing a rename. The system is actually reaching out, and it's renaming references to that table in places like the source drawing. We didn't rename the source drawing, but we renamed the table. And what the dialog did for us, it actually updated the reference within the source drawing. It updated the properties to refer to that new name, points table. So everything will continue to work. The amazing thing is that all this stuff works with data sources. So for example, if we had some linked data sources here that like databases or other map projects, that still works just fine. All this works in Viewer as well. For Viewer, of course, if you're renaming things, you're not going to be saving those projects, and you can't rename things that are in read-only data sources, because they're, after all, read-only. But everything otherwise still works exactly the way you'd expect in Viewer. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Start using Rename Related. The part of the message of this video is use Rename Related, even if you're renaming only one thing, because you may not be aware how many things, many other things in the project may utilize that one thing or refer to it by name. There are some limitations. For example, it's not going to dig into query texts. So if we rename the points table, it's not going to go into this query text here and change this reference in the query. That's going to be very complicated. It's not going to change references in programming code, for example. But it will handle the daily workflow that you want to do in terms of keeping your component names in order and the references all up to date. Like I say, if you're going to rename just one thing, use Rename Related. That's a kind of a guarantee that all the different references to that thing to that component will be, as much as possible, automatically updated for you. Thanks for watching, and goodbye from Manifold Land. Well, that was fun. If you want to see more, visit us at www.manifold.net. As always, Manifold delivers the world's most advanced, highest quality spatial products for GIS and DBMS at a low price that you can afford. Once again, that's manifold.net. See you soon.